Welcome all the fans of TDT Media. I'm Connor Davis, the co-host to our Tuesday show, The Breakdown X's and O's with Nate Ness. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But I'm here to show y'all a very special NFL draft slash Senior Bowl profile preview-esque type thing. I'm excited because this is a guy that I have seen these past couple years playing on a college football team, and there's a little bit more passion to go than just that couple years I've been watching him. So, for the player I have today, I have number 94, the D tackle from Mississippi State, the Mississippi State University, Jaden Crumedy. And what makes this guy so special to me is he's actually from my hometown. Hattiesburg, Mississippi. There's no other place like Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He went just right down the road. He attended high school at Oak Grove High School, Mississippi's prestigious big ball players over there. He was just right down the road from me, so I could have seen him in high school if I could have, but that wasn't the case. I got a little bit blessed, saw him progress in college, and I think he might be ready to take it to the next level. So after high school, he decided to carry out his athletic endeavors, like I said, at Mississippi State University. And does that ring a bell for everybody? That is actually the university that I attend right now, if you didn't know. Now, as I said earlier, he plays defensive tackle. He stands at about 6'5" tall and is about 305 pounds. So we see that he fits the bill for defensive tackle, which is why he did pretty good at Mississippi State. We see somebody that fits the bill, that looks the build. So he's going to start on an SEC D line. So let's look at some of those stats that Jaden Crumedy was doing for those years. In 2022, his senior year, his fourth year in college, he had about 15 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, and 10 assist tackles to break that down. He had 0 passes deflected and about 2 sacks. And then we go into his what I like to call his super senior year, his fifth year in college. He grew that year. He progressed, which is what we like to see. He had 35 total tackles, 10 solo tackles, 25 assists to break that up again, with 2 passes deflected and about 2.5 sacks tacked on to that. Now, for the awards part for Jaden Crumedy, there's not much there on his resume because he's had so many other big NFL prospects that join him on that Mississippi State D line and defense, to where he's got a lot of competition to him not being the one to stand out on his own team. So with that being said, he's a big role maker, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't one of the big names on that defense. He was a starter and he was good. So let's look at about the pros and cons for old Jaden Crumedy. So he comes off the line with immense speed, and I mean immense speed. His 40 time is a 5 flat, which is great for those defensive linemen. It's pretty fast for some defensive linemen. Now, we get into his position, his build. He's built for the position. He stands at about 6'5", which is tall for some linemen, and about 305 pounds, like I said earlier. When you think of a defensive lineman, you're thinking about Jaden Crumedy, which is what you want to hear. Now, his body control is phenomenal. When he gets off the line, it's harder for those opposing offensive linemen to pancake him to the ground. He's going to make sure that he's not going to go down without a fight. And if he goes down, he's taking you with him. Now, he knows how to use his hands. He can slap them things around if need be. If an O lineman's putting hands in his face, he's going to put hands right back. Hey, an eye for an eye is Jaden Crumedy's philosophy. Now, we go into sort of the cons, his weaknesses. What does Jaden Crumedy need to work on to be fit for an NFL team? He's just very inconsistent as a player. This is something that he needs to work on. I think when he goes to the NFL, he just needs that NFL development, which is something that we've seen for other Mississippi State D linemen. You have people like Chris Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, Fletcher Cox. Those are all successful D linemen in the league, but they had to get there somewhere. They didn't just automatically roll out of bed and become Chris Jones, Fletcher Cox, and Jeffrey Simmons. They had to progress. And this is something that Jaden Crumedy needs to take into account. This man is just an inconsistent ball player. He's got stuff to learn, which is just a part of being a young ball player. Now, when coming from behind the QB, His movement against O linemen is clunky, and this just comes from being inexperienced. He hasn't started a lot in college. It took him a couple years to finally earn that starting position, and when he started to play, he started to get that experience he needed. Now, 2, 3 years wasn't enough to get all the experience he needed to go into the NFL. There's still stuff he needs to learn, and with inexperience, he'll get that experience eventually. Now, we go into the NFL comparison. Who looks like Jaden Crumedy, or who does Jaden Crumedy look like in the NFL now? Look no further. Dexter Lawrence II. Can't forget the second. Let's look at his last year at Clemson. His junior year at Clemson, before he announced he was going to the NFL draft, he thought 3 years in college was enough, and it was. But let's look at how he compares with Jaden Crumedy's last year in college. Now, Crumedy had 35 total tackles his last year in college. Lawrence sat at about 36 total tackles. Lawrence also had a sack less than Crumedy at 1.5, and one more pass deflected at 3 passes deflected. Now, that's a pretty even stat line, but let's go into some more of Dexter Lawrence's kind of pros. He sits at about 6'4", which is pretty much Crumedy, but Dexter Lawrence is a lot heavier at 342 pounds. Now, there's a lot of give and take for Crumedy. Does Crumedy exhibit this player like Lawrence has found his success in the NFL? I think so. Lawrence ran a 5.0540 going into the NFL, which is just about Crumedy. Now, Lawrence does have about 30-ish more pounds on Crumedy, 30 more pounds on Crumedy. So he's a lot faster pound for pound than Crumedy. But let's look at the NFL draft. Lawrence drafted the Giants' first-round pick number 17, and he just got himself a bag this past offseason. Lawrence is finding success in the NFL. Let's see if Crumedy can too. Lawrence is a 2-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time second-team All-Pro, and Lawrence actually has a record under his belt. He holds an NFL record for the most pressures in a game by an interior D lineman with 15 QB pressures in that game. If that's not something that you want to be compared to, I don't know what is, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's get into where I actually think Jaden Crumedy will be drafted at. We look at players like Tyrus Wheat from last year's draft. We look at other players on that Mississippi State D line in those years and years back. I'm going to be honest. I think Crumedy is going to be a perfect depth player. I don't know if starting D lineman is just what he needs yet. I think that there's a lot of things he needs to improve on before he becomes an NFL starter. And for that reason, I'm going to say Crumedy will be undrafted going to the NFL draft. But he will be signed. I believe he's going to be signed by an NFL team. Don't know which one will. He'll be signed, learn what he needs to learn, and hopefully eventually become the starter he needs to be. Now let's look at Crumedy's biggest game of his career, I like to say, and he's played in 4 or 5 of them throughout his college. We're going to talk about the Egg Bowl. Now, it is Mississippi State's biggest rivalry of the whole year, easily. Biggest rivalry of the whole year. Mississippi State wants to play and beat Ole Miss in that end of the year rivalry game. There's a lot of animosity between the teams. With that being said, let's see just how good Crumedy does with that animosity built up. How well does Crumedy pressure Jackson Dart? How well does Crumedy sack Jackson Dart? And we're going to see in a couple of these plays. I edited a little film to go with it. And let's see how Crumedy. So let's look at big number 94. He's on the left right here. He's getting a little held tagged in the back. He actually makes Jackson Dart throw the ball away, which is he's not the fastest, but that's perfect. Instead of Jackson Dart going to the side and running around Crumedy, he made sure Jackson Dart was going to throw that ball away, and that's exactly what you want from a D lineman if he can't get the sack. We see another big 94 over here. He's getting pressure. He's getting held, face mask. And let's see what he does here. Another play that's thrown away by Crumedy. That's what you want to see. Throw the ball away. Let's see number big 94 here. He pushes the hole and he collapses the hole made by the O lineman, and he makes sure that running back does not get through there and only gets a couple yards on the play. Look at that right there. He makes sure that running back does not get those yards. Let's see big number 94 right here. Okay. He was part of that little mess up on that line right when the running back started, and he made sure that running back did not get more yards than he should have. Now, Jaden Crumedy, I'm excited to see you at the Senior Bowl, baby. I hope we come in contact with each other. You being from my hometown, I got a little bit of passion there. So, ladies and gentlemen, keep watching TDT Media. We're going to post more stuff about the Senior Bowl. Once the Senior Bowl actually pulls up, you better be clicking, turn those notifications on, ladies and gentlemen, because we're posting and it's going to be on your feed. Now, until the next draft profile / Senior Bowl preview, I'm Connor Davis, and it's been great. I'll see you then.